as we go into Rosh HaShannah. And when we say Hayom Harat Olam, this is the day of the birthday, this is the birthday of the world, of the universe, ask ourselves the question, how come it feels like we're preparing for the funeral of the world? We are a few days from Rosh HaShannah, and today, as we're speaking, the UN summit on climate change is taking place. So I want to dedicate this lesson to the climate and to those negotiations. Very, very critical time in our countries and the world's really history and future. And also want to dedicate this lesson to Aliyat HaNeshama, to the elevation of the soul of Helen Ben-Attar, the beloved sister of my good friend Michael Ben-Attar, who just recently passed away, and to all of our futures. So let's jump right in. What I'd like to share today is from Netivot Shalom by the Slonim Rebbe on Rosh HaShannah. And this is from, for those of you who are following, if you have the copy, this is from volume Bet of Netivot Shalom, not on the Parsha, but this is actually on the Chagim, on the holidays. And we are in page Kuf Chet, which is on Rosh HaShannah in Netivot Shalom. So the classical question about Rosh HaShannah is, what is it about? And there's a tension, because Rosh HaShannah is originally known as Harat Olam, the birthday of the world. This is a time when the world's creation is completed, according to tradition in the Gemara, in the Talmud. The world is now completed and put into motion. Sixth day of creation, the creation of Adam, the first human being. And also Rosh Hashanah, which is, as birthdays are, it's a happy occasion. Also, it is the day of judgment, Yom Hadin. And as you can imagine, Yom Hadin is a time of fear and trepidation and concern, as we evaluate our worthiness as human beings based on how we lived our lives for the past year, and what do we have to show for, and how do we make the corrections we need to make, clean the slate, start fresh. And that is a old standing tension in tradition. Is this a day of rejoicing, or is this a day of concern and anxiety as we reassess? The same tension does not apply at Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, it's clearly all about, the sealing of the judgment, but Rosh Hashanah has that mix of both. And the Slonim here is going to take us into to the deeper level, and let's go right at it. וראשית נבאר עניין עיצומו של יום הקדוש, ראש השנה. And let's start by clarifying the essence of this holy day, Rosh HaShannah. שהכתוב מפרש בו כי קדוש היום לאדוננו. Where the sages in classical writings, ancient writings, tell us that this is a holy day to Adonenu, to our sovereign. יותר על כל שאר המועדים שנקראו רק בשם מקראי קודש, which is much holier, much more grand than any of the other holidays in the Torah that were just called Mikra'ei Kodesh, the times that are labeled holy. והנה בכל תפילות ראש השנה לא משתקף ולא מובלט כלל עניין יום הדין. Now here, if we look at the bottom, at the prayers of Rosh HaShannah, we will find that the theme of the Day of Judgment is not emphasized at all. It is the power of the Creator, the creation, the origins of humanity. And I'm stressing humanity because Rosh Hashanah is not a Jewish holiday, or it's not about a Jewish specific theme. It's about the entire world, the entire universe. Jews, non-Jews, animal kingdom, everything. Right? This is Rosh Hashanah. And but the theme of the Day of Judgment is not emphasized. It's mentioned here and there, but it's not the main theme of the prayers. אלא כולם סובבים על עניין הכתרת מלכותו יתברך שמו על כל הבריאה. The theme that's emphasized in the prayers of Rosh Hashanah is crowning or recrowning the king, may he be blessed, upon all of creation. So, if we really look honestly at the prayers of Rosh Hashanah, this is about an exercise of focusing on the divine aspect of sovereignty, which is the word that's used in tradition is kingship, as it's derived from the experience of sovereignty at that time was of a king, the king of kings, etc. The covenant between the vassals and the king and all that. That is the metaphor for divinity, but let's go deeper than the literal meaning of the metaphor. This is a focus on divinity as authoritative, as a grand order within which we are, to which we're subject. And that goes contrary, obviously, to our sense of self and ego and power in the world and control of our own destiny, etc. But that is Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is about Hachtarat Malchuto. It's about putting myself in the place where I'm really powerless. The world is so grand. And I want to take that on. I want to go to that place of humility where I put my power aside, I put my control aside, and I yield to the greater grand order of life. Not only of my life, but kol habri'ah, over all of creation. This is one of those times when, for people who say, I find my God in nature, this is it. This is when you go to nature and you look at the complexity and the harmony in nature, and you cannot but say, boy, this is so grand, so complex, so beautiful, so intricately designed, that it brings up the sense of reverence and sense of yielding, in the face of that observation. So that is how I crown the Holy One over all of creation. היינו שמבקשים שכבר יהיה התיקון הגמור ומלאה הארץ דעה את אדוני. What does that mean, says the astronomer? That we are asking on Rosh HaShannah that there should already be the state of the complete rectification, the complete fixing, and the whole world will be filled with with divine awareness, with that awareness, right, of the divine, of the greater picture. So he's talking here about a spiritual concept that's traditional, that the world is in need of fixing, and our standing and our perception of the world we live in is incomplete. But there will be a time where our lack of knowledge, where the incoherence about how we perceive the world we live in is going to be no longer. And we will see, we'll have the wisdom to know everything exactly as it is. If you want to think about it through, the scientific paradigm, imagine the end of science where everything has been discovered. And we know it all. And we know how to live within it in harmony, which is critical, by the way, because this does take us to the awareness about climate change and how we navigate ourselves as a species in the world as constructive rather than destructive force, regenerative rather than exploitative force. And this is exactly what this weekend and this Monday is all about here in New York. ותהי הכתרת מלכותו יתברך על כל הבריאה. And that is what we mean by crowning God over all of creation. That is an internal movement, internal transformation, where we come into this knowledge, this awareness of how the divine or the entire whole picture of the world we live in, how it operates, so we can then, the roadmap, then you can navigate, right? It's that kind of awareness that is what's meant by crowning God. So you see that a lot of the language is metaphor, and we need to understand how that metaphor is actually talking about really the infinite, the great possibility that is within the development of our own consciousness and standing in our universe. So let's then understand if the theme of Rosh HaShannah is really this growing into this ultimate consciousness that we call crowning God over creation. Let's try to understand then what is this emphasis on the Day of Judgment. These are these are really not coherent. They don't follow. They don't extend on its face from one another. So let's try to explain it. מאחר שהיום הרת עולם, פירוש שיום הוא יום חידוש הבריאה. Because today is the day of celebrating the creation of the universe. It's the day of the renewal of creation. So let's explain that a little bit. Harat olam, the word harat, for those of you who are Hebrew speakers, it's like herayon or hore. So it's the day of the birthing of the world. Harat, right? The world has been impregnated. According to the Torah, again, don't take it that so literally, but in 6 days God created the heaven and the earth. So that is kind of like the 9 months of gestation in the womb, and on the 6th day the world is born. It's complete. It comes out and it starts breathing and screaming and growing, right, like a baby. So Rosh HaShannah is the day when we remember the beginning of everything, of the world. And it's also the day when the world is being renewed, according to tradition. So we had a year of worlding, and that year is complete. And we start, or the attempt is to start completely fresh. Let's start as if this is a brand new world, clean slate, sixth day of creation. You and I are Adam and Eve. And here we go. Let's give it our best shot one more time, starting clean. He says that is why the Holy One will judge all the creatures of the world. יש דיון למעלה אם יתמלא על ידם הייעוד והמטרה שיעד הבורא יתברך שמו בבריאת העולם. So, what does that mean to put the world in judgment? Often we misunderstand it, or we take it again too literally. Like, like I go to traffic court and woe me, it's like I can get points. I got a ticket. I'm going to pay a lot of money. The judge is going to be Lord over me, the Almighty Judge. This is not how tradition thinks about the Day of Judgment. He says, Yesh diyun lemala, there is a discussion in the upper worlds. Im yitmaleh al yadam hayehud v'amatara sheyad yi'ed haboreh. Are the creatures, and by the way, this is not only people. This is people, not only Jews. It's Jews and non-Jews and animals and all of nature. Excuse me. Are the creatures of the world fulfilling the purpose for which they were created? According to Al Pi Sodot HaBriah HaYeduim Elav Yitbarach Shmo, according to the secrets of creation that are known only to the Holy One. So you see that there's an understanding that there's a grand order, a bigger order that's to us a secret. To the infinite mind it's not. But to the human mind it is concealed. And that the world is purposeful, and that every creature, you and I, and the ant that's crawling, along in my garden, and the cat that's luxuriating on my sofa, and the horse in the barn, and the bear in the woods, and so on and so forth. Everything has a purpose in a very purposeful and intricately functioning universe, where nothing is coincidence. And once a year, in the higher realms, the infinite mind is assessing whether creatures are fulfilling the purpose for which they have been created. Is the goodness in the world dominating the bad in the world? Or is bad, God forbid, the opposite? Is the bad dominating and moving things in a direction that is against the purpose, the higher purpose for which everything was created? So here the judgment is not about good or bad, moral, immoral, good character, bad character. The judgment here, according to, the deeper, the Kabbalistic understanding of the Day of Judgment, is whether you and I are still on course. Are we still functioning in the way we meant to be functioning? Are we off course? Are we corrupted? Are we asleep? Many different ways of talking about that kind of being off purpose. Shaz ein tzorech bo. And when a creature is in a place where he or she or it are off purpose, they're really not needed in the grand scheme of things. ועומק הדין הזה בוודאי שייך ביחס לכל היצורים, אפילו אלו שאין להם בחירה. And this relates to all creatures, as we said, to all of nature, all of the living world. האם נגמרה על ידם התקרבות לכוונה העליונה שבבריאה או לא? Are creatures, all of us, bringing the world closer to its purpose or not? וכמו שמצינו בדור המבול שנמחה בכל היקום, and we have a precedent in our legend, in our Torah, for this, and that is the generation of the flood. The whole world was destroyed because the world was going in a direction that was against the divine purpose. Gam elu she'en lehem bchira. Even creatures who do not have the same level of choice as do humans. And the judgment above is whether any creature is being useful and needs to keep playing its role in the grand scheme of creation or not. And certainly when the assessment is not, so that creature is destined to complete its journey on earth. And that is why in Rosh HaShannah and Yom Kippur we are praying and enacting and ceremonializing and contemplating the possibility that this coming year would be our last year, the year of our death, the year of the completion of our purpose on earth. So this is a little bit of the spiritual philosophy that contextualizes Rosh HaShannah. And just the last point on that is that the human being who has choice and has the cognitive ability to and the spiritual ability to be self-aware and to assess oneself and then correct, has the power to change that judgment, to correct and become useful and become purposeful and become full and become fulfilled and actualized, and therefore to be a master. This is what it really means to be a master of one's own destiny. Can I come back to my destiny, to my purpose, willfully, through reflection, through value-based and knowledge-based and evolution-based contemplation and action. So this is the deeper sort of dynamics of the tension between that aspiration for a world, an inner world and an outer world of knowledge of all, the wisdom of the divine wisdom, right? Mal'ah ha'aretz, Tikkun hagamur mal'ah ha'aretz de'ah et Adonai, when the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the divine. That's an aspiration, and this is what we do. This is the beginning of the year, and we want to connect with that place where we're crowning, as it were, crowning the divine, or tuning in and recommitting to the aspiration to have that wisdom and that knowledge and function and live at the best of our capacity. And the other side of that is being aware of the judgment or the consequence of allowing ourselves to slide or sink into the pit of a purposeless, a rudderless life. And you and I know when we're there. There's an intuitive inner compass that tells us my life is going really well. Often we know it just by the way we breathe, the way our health is, the way our relationships are, the way our life is falling into place, and whether that's the case or not. And if not, we know that there's a way that we have slidden off course, and that's the work of Rosh HaShannah. So I want to complete by saying that all this is true for an individual, but it's also true for, for the collective, the Jewish collective, the world collective, the American collective, whichever collective you identify or we identify as part of at any given time. And we have slidden off course. We've grossly with the way we steward the environment, the world we live in. I will talk further on, not right now, but there's a strong Torah case for and a traditional case and the wisdom of the sages about how we need to relate, interact, and with the environment, with the natural world. Choose to navigate our lives, how we do our livelihood, how we treat the natural world, animals, vegetation, the earth, minerals, the planet. Is it okay to extract resources and live in the kind of exploitative and short-sighted and blind kind of culture that we live, and cause what looks like in the world, in the scope of world history, an imminent second flood, a destruction of the ecology that sustains us. This is off purpose, and that's something that I'd like to focus on, and I'd like to call our attention to as we go into Rosh HaShannah. And when we say Hayom Ha'at Olam, this is the day of the birthday, this is the birthday of the world, of the universe, ask ourselves the question, how come it feels like we're preparing for the funeral of the world? According to all the science, the weather events, the pollution, climate change-based diseases, and the predictions are pretty dire. So let's make this Rosh HaShannah a reflection on the worthiness and the purpose-drivenness or alignment of each our individual lives, but also, and primarily this year, look at how we are participating in contributing to the problem of global warming, climate change, and to what extent are we participating and contributing to the solutions. And that's the big reflection, I think, the big soul searching for all of us this Rosh HaShannah. With that, I want to offer us the blessing of a wonderful holiday. Thank you for sharing this learning time, this Torah time. Slonim always takes us to good, deep places, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this learning with you. If we don't meet again before Rosh HaShannah, wishing you a Shana Tova. Shalom for now. Please subscribe by clicking the red button below. Like, share, comment. It is great to have you here. See you later.